Welcome to Wrestling Sphere, where the realest stories in the world of WWE are told with emotion, memory, and deep respect. In a world where muscle was once the ultimate symbol of power, many superstars made millions hold their breath with just one appearance. But time, injuries, and life outside the ring have caused some of those once mighty physiques to fade. Today, we look back at the wrestlers who once stood as icons of physical greatness, and explore why everything eventually changed. 1. Lex Luger, from muscle icon to the shadow of a legend. Let's begin with a name that once turned heads across the wrestling world, Lex Luger. In the 1990s, Luger was the embodiment of peak physical perfection. With sculpted muscles, broad shoulders, and a body chiseled like a statue, he wasn't just a wrestler, he was the real-life superhero personified. A standout star in both WCW and WWE, Luger brought a powerful presence to the ring, combining superior strength with a physique that commanded attention. Early 90s WWE fans surely remember the Narcissist, a true egomaniac, admiring his own reflection and flaunting his Greek god build before every match. But when Hulk Hogan left WWE, Luger was rebranded as the All-American Hero, a symbol of hope the fans could rally behind. His shared win with Bret Hart at the 1994 Royal Rumble marked a high point in his career, cementing his popularity. But behind the spotlight, Luger's personal life was spiraling. When he shocked the wrestling world by jumping to WCW during the very first episode of Nitro in 1995, he became a face of the Monday Night Wars. Yet as the arena lights dimmed, the shadows of real life began to creep in. After retiring, Luger faced numerous personal issues, including a tragic incident involving his former partner Miss Elizabeth and a series of legal troubles. Most devastatingly, a severe spinal injury left him partially paralyzed, forcing him into a wheelchair for years. The once mighty, muscle-bound Luger became unrecognizable. Still, his spirit never broke. He fought to recover, learning to walk again, rebuilding his health, and inspiring those who once idolized him. Today, Lex Luger may no longer be a symbol of peak physique, but he stands tall as a testament to perseverance, strength, and redemption. 2. Road Dogg, when charisma outshines muscles. Unlike many of his peers known for their jacked physiques, Road Dogg, real name Jesse James, was never seen as a bodybuilder type. But that didn't stop fans from loving him. Over time, his appearance changed noticeably, and fans can't help but look back fondly on the chaotic, charismatic, and energetic star he once was. A former U.S. Marine, Jesse James had a solid fitness foundation before stepping into the ring. He debuted in WWE in 1994 as The Roadie, playing the sneaky backup for country singer Jeff Jarrett, often bending the rules to help Jarrett win. But by 1996, that image was gone, and a louder, bolder persona emerged, Road Dogg Jesse James, one half of the iconic New Age Outlaws, alongside Billy Gunn. Together, they embodied the rebellious spirit of WWE's Attitude Era. Whether tossing rivals into trash cans, ambushing opponents, or grabbing a mic to call out anyone and everyone, their unpredictable antics and undeniable chemistry earned them 5 WWF Tag Team Championship reigns. Road Dogg wasn't just a tag team guy either. He held both the Intercontinental and Hardcore titles during his career, showing he could hold his own. But in 2001, personal struggles and backstage tension within D-Generation X derailed his momentum. Following a suspension and eventual release from WWE, his career went through a rough patch, with stints in TNA and the indie circuit unable to recapture past glory. While Billy Gunn maintained a jaw-dropping physique well into his later years, Road Dogg embraced a more relaxed post-wrestling lifestyle. Training took a back seat, and his current appearance is far removed from his ring days. Yet fans still love him, not for muscles, but for his wit, his charm, and his unmatched microphone skills. Some things time can't take away. 3. Batista, when the Animal transformed for a new life. When talking about the ruthless aggression era, it's impossible not to mention Batista, one of the most iconic symbols of muscle and dominance in WWE history. Weighing nearly 300 pounds, his body looked like a wall of steel, massive, powerful, and shockingly well-defined. What made Batista stand out wasn't just his monstrous physique, but also his surprising agility and versatility in the ring despite his size. From his very first appearance, Batista left fans stunned. The nickname, The Animal, wasn't just a marketing gimmick. It truly captured his ferocity every time he stepped through the ropes. 4 years, he maintained a nearly flawless physique, turning his muscles into a weapon that powered him through solo matches and WrestleMania moments alike. But things began to change when he left WWE in 2010 to pursue a career in acting. Though he returned for brief stints in 2014 and again in 2019, his physique had noticeably shifted. He still looked impressive and carried himself with authority, but the massive bulk he once carried had clearly slimmed down. From 2023 to 2024, Batista's transformation became even more apparent. His once muscle-packed frame now looked leaner, and signs of aging could be seen in his face. Some fans grew concerned about his health, but the truth was far simpler. Batista had chosen change. In an effort to live a healthier, more sustainable lifestyle and fully embrace his acting career, Batista began training lighter, gave up all performance enhancers, and, perhaps most surprisingly, adopted a plant-based diet. No longer confined to the image of a jacked-up action star, he focused on deep, dramatic roles and emotional storytelling. Batista's physical change isn't a sign of decline, it's an evolution by design. He may not look like the Animal anymore, but he remains one of WWE's most influential stars, inside the ring and far beyond it. 4. Yokozuna, when immense size became too heavy a burden. Next up, we have one of the largest legends to ever step foot in a WWE ring, Yokozuna. More than just a super heavyweight, he was the living definition of a giant monster. Weighing nearly 600 pounds, around 272 kilograms, Yokozuna's size alone left crowds speechless. But what truly made him special wasn't the number on the scale, it was his shockingly fluid movement for someone his size. He moved, struck, and countered with ease, as if gravity had no hold on him. Born Rodney Anoa'i I, he started out unknown, climbing the ranks until Vince McMahon gave him a new identity, Yokozuna, a dominant sumo warrior from Japan. Despite his Samoan heritage and membership in the legendary Anoa'i family, he fully embraced the sumo style, and that creative reinvention helped him skyrocket to stardom. Yokozuna made history by becoming the first Samoan to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship and also winning the 1993 Royal Rumble. He headlined WrestleMania 9 and 10, facing off against icons like Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan. Though his WWE run was relatively short, he left a lasting impression, becoming one of the most unforgettable champions in company history. But as with all bright lights, his time in the spotlight eventually faded. After leaving WWE, Yokozuna wrestled on the independent scene, but his ever-increasing weight made performance difficult. What was once his greatest weapon became a dangerous burden. He was no longer the awe-inspiring force fans remembered, but a man struggling with his health and body. The end came far too soon. In 2000, at only 34 years old, Yokozuna passed away due to complications related to his weight, a tragic end for the man who once ruled the super heavyweight division. Still, his legacy lives on. In 2012, WWE inducted him into the Hall of Fame, a long overdue but heartfelt tribute to a one-of-a-kind legend who left an indelible mark on wrestling history. 5. Scott Steiner, when the genetic freak chose to let go of the muscle mass. When fans hear the name Scott Steiner, one image instantly comes to mind, a real-life Marvel superhero brought to life. In the late 80s, he and his brother Rick Steiner formed one of the most iconic tag teams of all time, the Steiner Brothers. With 7 WCW Tag Team Championships under their belt, they didn't just dominate the tag team division. They stormed through the entire wrestling scene, capturing the U.S. tag titles and making it clear. They weren't here to play, they were here to conquer. Even WWE couldn't ignore their momentum. Although their early WWE run wasn't long, they still managed to make an impact, winning the WWE Tag Team titles twice. But Scott Steiner's solo career in WCW is where things really exploded. It was then that wrestling fans witnessed one of the most jaw-dropping physical evolutions the industry had ever seen. He became Big Papa Pump, a hulking, muscle-bound beast who looked like he defied the limits of human biology. By the time Steiner returned to WWE in 2002, his in-ring skills may not have been as crisp as before, but his physique was still jaw-dropping. Massive biceps, wide shoulders, rock-solid legs, he looked like an action figure brought to life. People even joked that Scott Steiner had the biggest arms in WWE history. But time waits for no one, and the human body has its limits. After leaving WWE in 2004, the once legendary build of Big Papa Pump began to shift. By 2024, His physique had notably changed. The massive muscles had softened, replaced by a leaner frame, now covered in tattoos. At 62, this wasn't a fall from grace, it was a conscious decision. He chose to stop the extreme weight training that once sculpted his superhero body, prioritizing long-term health instead. Scott Steiner may no longer be the muscle monster we once idolized. But he remains a one-of-a-kind figure in wrestling history, a man who built his body into a legend and knew exactly when to let go to protect the rest of his life. 6. Chris Hero, when shape couldn't overshadow knockout passion. Unlike many others, the physical transformation of Chris Hero, also known in WWE as Cassius Ohno, wasn't caused by health issues. His story is more nuanced, deeply personal, and in many ways reflects a shift in lifestyle and professional philosophy from a true knockout artist. Most fans remember Ohno from his second stint in WWE, where he returned to NXT in 2017. But Hero had been part of WWE before, originally debuting in 2012. Back then, he had a leaner build, quick footwork, and a fast-paced style built around his signature move, the rolling elbow. That thunderous strike, sharp, sudden, and brutal, earned him a reputation for leaving opponents knocked out cold in the blink of an eye. Unfortunately, a run at the NXT Championship never materialized, and Ohno was released from WWE in late 2013. He returned to the independent circuit, where he reminded the world why he was considered one of the best technical wrestlers globally. But during that time, his body began to change. He gained noticeable weight, and when he reappeared in WWE in 2017, fans were shocked at the transformation. Despite the drastic change in appearance from his 2012 version, Ohno's in-ring performance remained razor-sharp. If anything, he had become even more impactful, in every sense of the word. His strikes were still lethal, his timing spot-on, and he leaned even further into a hard-hitting power-based style that thrilled fans of stiff, physical wrestling. Today, though no longer a regular face on TV, Chris Hero is remembered as someone who never let body image stop him from pursuing what he loved. His size changed, sure, but his fighting spirit never faded. His story proves that in the ring, passion can hit harder than any punch, and no scale can ever measure the weight of true heart. 7. Jake, the Snake, Roberts, when darkness found its second chance. Jake Roberts was unlike anyone else. Not because of powerhouse moves or a massive build like the giants of his era, but because he was the darkness. Cold, eerie, unsettling, he carried an atmosphere with him every time he walked to the ring. With a whispery voice that crawled like a snake through the grass, Jake could chill an entire arena with just one promo. And, of course, no one ever forgot the massive python he'd bring along. More than a prop, it felt like a shadowy extension of his very soul. His DDT wasn't just a finisher, it was a message. WWE once called it the coolest move of all time, and with good reason. When Jake delivered it, it felt less like a wrestling move and more like a quiet execution, ruthless, sudden, and final. But behind the spotlight, Jake Roberts battled storms of his own. Years of addiction to drugs, alcohol, and chaos slowly ate away at him. Once a nearly 6 feet 6 inches, 249-pound presence, Jake's weight ballooned over 300 pounds. His health deteriorated to the point where walking was difficult, and most believed he'd never recover, physically or emotionally. But like every great wrestler he ever faced, Jake refused to let life pin him for the 3 count. With the help of longtime friend Diamond Dallas Page and a strict yoga-based recovery program, Jake started his journey back. Day by day, he fought for himself, losing weight, regaining strength, and more importantly, rediscovering who he was. Not just as a fallen icon, but as a man climbing out of the abyss. Today, Jake Roberts may not look like the fearsome figure of his prime, but his eyes still carry that same edge. His presence commands silence, and his voice, now steadier, wiser, still holds power. For many fans, this is his greatest legacy. Not the snake, not the DDT, but the courage to rewrite his own ending. 8. Scott Hall, when the bad guy became a real-life warrior. Scott Hall, better known as the bad guy, wasn't just a character with swagger. He was a revolutionary, a catalyst for one of the greatest shifts professional wrestling had ever seen. As Razor Ramon, Hall was a pillar of WWF's early 90s golden era. But in 1996, he shocked the world by leaving WWF for WCW, And from that moment, wrestling would never be the same. Teaming up with Kevin Nash, Hall formed the Outsiders, and soon after, they recruited Hulk Hogan to create one of the most legendary factions in wrestling history, the NWO New World Order. What started as a supposed WWF invasion quickly turned Hall into the face of a rebellion that smashed the old ways and launched the brutal Monday Night Wars. He didn't just help reshape WCW, he helped reshape the entire industry. But Hall's journey wasn't all glory. After his WWE run ended and retirement took hold, his personal life spiraled. Addiction crept in. His health collapsed. His once chiseled frame gave way to weight gain and wear. The bad guy looked like he had lost the fight, not in the ring, but in life. Then came a lifeline, from his brother in arms, Diamond Dallas Page. DDP didn't just reach out. He moved Scott into his home, helped him detox, retrain, and even organized a fundraiser that raised nearly $110,000 to replace Hall's damaged hip. With DDP's unwavering support and a structured recovery program, Hall began to recover. He slowly rebuilt his strength and eventually posted photos of his transformation, not for praise, but as proof that willpower could defeat darkness. Before his passing in 2022, Scott Hall returned to WWE one final time, healthy, focused, and respected. He was no longer the broken man lost in the shadows. He had come full circle, not as just a bad guy, but as a warrior who faced his demons and stood tall once again. 9. Goldust, the Golden Enigma's journey out of the shadows. Beneath the shimmering gold paint, the tight latex bodysuit, and that piercing, almost alien stare, Goldust entered WWE like a storm against the norm. But don't let the outlandish look fool you. Behind the eccentric facade stood a true wrestling legacy. Dustin Rhodes, the son of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and half-brother of Cody Rhodes. And if you try to decode the entirety of who Goldust is, well, good luck. From the moment he debuted in 1995, Goldust shattered every mold. In an era when WWE was still hesitant about pushing unconventional characters, he dared to go full throttle, bizarre, suggestive, and completely unforgettable. You didn't have to understand him, or even like him. But you couldn't ignore him. Goldust demanded attention. In the early years, Dustin kept himself in solid shape, not overly massive, but lean, agile, and ring-ready. He maintained that conditioning throughout various stages of his career, whether in WWE, WCW, or later in Impact Wrestling. But things began to fall apart after he left WWE in 1999 and rebranded himself as Black Reign in TNA. The new character failed to connect, and his career momentum started to slip. Off-screen, Dustin's personal life unraveled, and so did his physical health. He gained a significant amount of weight, and the magnetic oddity that once made Goldust a standout faded into uncertainty. Yet, like his father before him, Dustin Rhodes refused to let failure define him. In 2008, he returned to WWE not just as Goldust, but as a reborn version of himself, more focused, more disciplined, and with a hunger to redeem the legacy he nearly lost. Through a strict no-carb diet and relentless training, he shed over 60 pounds. Once again, Goldust defied expectations, proving that even the strangest characters can rise again. Now in his 50s, Dustin continues to perform at a high level in AEW, not as a novelty act, but as a symbol of reinvention and resilience. 10. Akmed Johnson, from Steel Mountain to Unrecognizable Evolution. We close our list with a name that once struck fear deep into the hearts of WWE fans, Akmed Johnson. Standing nearly 6 feet 2 inches and weighing over 250 pounds, he stormed the ring like a human wrecking ball, a walking slab of muscle powered by raw speed and intensity that few could match in the mid-90s. Before wrestling, Akmed had already proven himself in professional football. But it was his massive frame and natural explosiveness that opened the door to a wrestling career. Trained by legends like Scott Casey, Ivan Putski, and Skandar Akbar, Akmed didn't take long to prove he belonged inside the squared circle. After working the indie circuit, he joined WWE in 1995, right as the company was trying to rebrand itself in the aftermath of the steroid scandal. And Akmed arrived like a bolt of lightning. It wasn't just his brute strength, it was his agility that truly stunned audiences. At his size, no one expected him to move that fast or hit that hard. He made history by becoming the first African-American Intercontinental Champion in WWE history, a landmark achievement that still inspires. But behind the high-impact persona were lingering injuries, inconsistent storylines, and a heartbreaking personal struggle. His sister was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Without fanfare, Akmed quietly left WWE in 1997, avoiding pity and choosing privacy. Sadly, once he stepped away from the spotlight, his legendary physique began to fade. He gained significant weight, and each rare public appearance shocked fans who remembered the explosive, chiseled juggernaut of the 90s. Yet for many, Akmed Johnson remains one of the most unforgettable forces of WWE's new generation era, a one-of-a-kind warrior etched into the memories of an entire generation. Bodies may fade, but their impact never disappears. The physiques that once shook arenas may have changed with time, but in the hearts of fans, they remain warriors.